to another edition of the Music Dreams USA Radio Artist Spotlight Show. And man, do we got a treat for you tonight. We got an up and coming country star. This guy is just tearing up the charts right now. All kinds of amazing songs, and he is just killing it in the music industry right now. He is the one, the only Mr. Whiskey Thomas, and what a pleasure it is to have him on our show. And again, our show is being brought to you by Music Dreams USA Radio Worldwide. And so now let's go live and meet our special guest. Hey, Whiskey, how are you, my friend?
Good. How we doing?
I'm doing well. So I know we spoke about this off air, Bart, but you know my first question is going to be, right?
Yeah.
My first question is going to be, how did you come up with the name Whiskey?
Yeah. So when I first started writing songs, first song I ever wrote that I was like, I really love this song was Whiskey Thomas, which is almost like an autobiography type song that I haven't like put out or anything. It's just one that's in the tank. And as I started like going out and gigging and like meeting people and, you know, throwing ideas together to like put out music and whatever, I was like, I'm just going to go by the band's called Whiskey Thomas. I'm Whiskey Thomas, whatever, you know, like just the whole thing's Whiskey T. And, yeah, so we just ran with it and thought it had a cool ring. And now we have our debut little soundtrack out, 1952, which is named after my grandpa's birth year. Like it's just, you know, some symbolism or whatever. But yeah, so we put that out in March of this past year, and we're just going out and pushing it and trying to spread it around.
Awesome. What inspired you to get into music?
So my grandfather and my grandmother, when they first moved to Indiana, they were like, you know, working jobs and playing out like at night. And you know, they did it for however long. And then when my uncle was born, he kind of just floated into it and played with them. And then he started his own projects, and my grandpa played with him. And then, you know, he went out on the road and did that thing for like 20 years. And then I started playing with him when they started playing around here again, like maybe 7, 8 years ago or something like that. So I used to play guitar. So, you know, my entire life I was like playing like with Tom here and there, my uncle. And now he's playing pedal steel and I'm trying to do my thing. So I'm just like passing the torch down the line.
That's awesome. Are there any artists that you look up to? Who are they, and why do you look up to them?
Right now, I think Post Malone's number one. I think the way that he like conveys what he feels in his art is like just on a level that I'm like in awe of. And you know, and he's jumping into the country space right now. So, and then like in the country space, I feel like Cody Johnson is like gotta be that guy. Um, I say top three. Probably, I know Morgan Wallen's like absolutely destroying everything, but I would say like Tyler Childers influenced me a lot like a few years ago when I was like really first starting writing. So like he'd have to be another one that's like I'm kind of in that same vein.
You know, it's kind of funny you say that. Even Beyonce, I mean, of all artists, Beyonce is now getting into the country music scene. You know,
It's
you
the
got Post
thing.
Malone and Beyonce. What's
Yeah,
up with that, man? What's up
I
with
know.
that?
I think it's just the genres are like almost a thing of the past now because you have so many artists filling in so many gaps. You know what I mean? To where like people can almost do anything, but like country does seem to be it right now. You know, like it hasn't been it for a long time, but uh, it's cool to see what's happening right now for sure across the board.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with you. I mean, today's music is just it's not music in my opinion. I mean, you got artists writing songs that in the world we're living in right now with all the craziness going on right now. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking for more artists that are really relating to what's going on, the real
Yeah.
facts of what's going on.
Right.
And so a lot of the new music, in my opinion, it's just my opinion, but a lot of the music right now, the newer stuff, I mean, even like the younger kids are not even listening to it. I mean, if you
Mhm.
were to poll 20 young kids, I guarantee you, out of that 20, at least 50% or more listen to old school music,
Yeah.
country, old school, and stuff like that. Would
Mhm.
you agree with that statement?
I would. I mean, I'm from a small town, so I see like, people around, and like a lot of the kids that are like 19, 20, or whatever, like they're still rocking with like country stuff that was coming out. I feel like in like the mid 2000s, 90s countries going crazy right now. Like people will sniff out, you know, like what's like it'll go on for a while where I feel like people will listen to something, and now it's like people get tired of stuff so quick. Like you hear that all the time. Like I feel like now people are more than ever like, because there's so much music, let me like find the good stuff, and people are still gravitating to the stuff that's just always nailed it.
So when you do your songwriting, based on what you just said, do you find your songwriting a little bit more easier and more difficult to kind of, keep in touch with what's going on right now?
I definitely think if you don't keep your eyes on your own plate, that it can be so easy to look here or there and let that influence you, whether you realize it's influencing you or not. So it's like now, in a time more than ever, the people who are really coming out with like strong stuff, I feel like are those people that are like really talking about their experience. You know what I mean? Because that's what people who are like super fans of, like Taylor Swift, for example, or anyone that has, massive fan base. I think people resonate with the artist that maybe does connect with them on like a real human to human level. And the better you are at like showcasing how you actually feel about things that are in front of you, your problems, how you feel about dealing with your problems, is like a great way to find an audience, you know what I mean, that's like in a niche, because, you know, people are gravitating to like real raw stuff. I feel like that's from the ground up.
Wow, that's awesome. And so, I mean, let's get back into the music industry. What are your
Mhm.
thoughts? Well, let me ask you this. You're the CEO of the entire music industry today on our
Mhm.
show.
Okay.
If there's one thing, or maybe a few, that you would like to change, what would they be, and why would you like to make those changes?
Man, I feel like anything I say is going to be tailored towards my exact situation right now, but I do think that like the whole idea of like the fake numbers game could get wiped, where like you may have somebody out there where like I've found guys out there that have like, and this is just my opinion too, like I'm not saying like I know like this, that, or the other, but like I've found people where like their follower count or how good their production is on like their videos or whatever, you know what I mean? There's some people that I feel like are so good, but there's that gap where like they're not buying streams, they're not doing this, they're not doing that, but like then there's people that are probably buying streams, doing this or that, and they don't have as good of a product, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
But no one knows the difference because, oh well, this guy's got 300,000 monthly listeners and this guy's only got 1,000 or whatever. But in reality, you know what I mean, like people could come in and go, oh, like that could be all that gets them in the door, you know what I mean, like to where I almost feel like it could be like people are getting tricked to some extent, and then they realize, oh, I don't really, like I don't know, I could be wrong, but I just think the numbers thing, it would make it an even playing field for like everybody that's out there doing it. Like whoever's really putting in the most work, you know what I mean, would show.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. And, it seems like all the artists that we interview, a lot of artists are saying the same thing about the streaming, how they like to
Mhm.
make more money in the streaming. It's like they feel like, they're creating a product, they're putting it out there, but they feel like they're not getting the money that they should be getting for what they're putting out. And it kind of like
Mhm.
ties into what you're saying about the numbers game. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, about the songs, the numbers, where it's going, how many people is it reaching?
Mhm.
And so that's a great call. And thank you for sharing that. Are there any other topics you want to discuss as it relates to the music industry?
I mean, the only other thing that I could think of is something pertaining to like maybe making the live circuit, give the live circuit some kind of, revamp to where there's more opportunity, because right now it's like all the money and stuff is coming from, merch and sales, and it's still not even, like what it used to be or whatever for artists. So it's already like almost impossible to just like go out and fund the whole thing from, you know, doing whatever. Like if there was some way to kind of like legitimize a process for just making it more streamlined, or I just put more money into opening more venues, honestly.
Right. Yeah, that's another great call. And thank you so much for sharing that. Now let's talk about your songwriting. What does your writing look like?
Um, we'll see. In the beginning, I feel like I wasn't as like conscious of what I was doing, but over time, I was, because you can easily get in your head and get in your own way and be like, I just went on a streak and wrote like, all these songs. Because for me, I never like sit down and I guess write like, I've never really sat down and been like, okay, we're going to write like 200 songs this year and sit down and like write them all. It's almost like I wait for the inspiration to hit, and then I'll know like when to, write down what I got to write down. And I'll let things kind of formulate. Like I won't rush stuff, which could also be a negative, you know what I mean? Because whatever. But for me, it's always just been inspiration. If something catches me and I'm like, man, like that actually caught me, then I'll try to put that into a song, because I feel like the first time someone else experiences it, maybe they'll have the same emotion. It's always got to have like a ton of, emotion or whatever, because I feel like when you get into too much of thinking of like the technicals of things, like, oh, like this person sits down and writes this with this person and they write this much and they do this and they're writing about this and they're writing about that. People just, you get completely, sprung out where you're like, I have no idea what I even want to say. So it's like, first of all, just, figuring out like really like, what do you want to say? And when something grabs you, just act on it, like, you know what I mean? And then if you have something that's worth keeping, you won't forget it.
That's awesome. Well, as you mentioned earlier in the show, you come from a small town.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, let's talk about your small town. I think that's really, really cool. An amazing artist like you that's in a small town. Obviously, I mean, they take into you, right? And so, what is that relationship with you in the small town in which you live in?
Well, we're playing the little festival here, that I've been like going to my entire life. This is gonna be our first year playing it on Father's Day weekend, so I'm super excited about that. But yeah, I mean, everyone that I've grown up with that is, still around or that I talk to, like they all actually, support it a lot. Like my close buddies will go with me, if I'm going somewhere and whatever. So we're kind of just like DIY doing the thing out of our house, and the town's going along with it so far, it seems.
That's awesome. I would love for our station to come down there and be a part of that festival, man. We can
Yeah,
stream live and do some interviews and all that. So we'll talk about
that
that
would
off
be
air.
cool.
But
Yeah.
I mean that's one thing, that really caught my eye. That you're such an amazing artist. You're in a small town, and you're doing so well. A lot of people can't say that, but you can.
Mhm.
What do you base your success on?
Really, I think the whole success thing with music is like, I feel as if my entire life is entangled with what I'm doing with music, to where it's almost like my business. So it's like my life. You know what I mean? Like I wake up in the morning, I instantly think about it. You have to figure out how to integrate everything that you do, You know what I mean? Because some people will be like, oh, like I gotta not do this and focus on this. It's like, depending on what your situation is, sometimes you just literally have to grab everything, throw it all in front of you, and just be like, today we're doing this, and I got this and this and this to do, and just fill your schedule up with things that are going to, like, send. If you want to send 100 emails a day, send 100 emails a day. You know what I mean? Like, to companies or whatever, and like find people that are willing to pick up on whatever. Because in the beginning, it's like you go through phases where it feels like, oh, there's nothing over the horizon, and then there is something on the horizon, and then you get to it and you're like, well, what's the next mountain to climb? And so it's like just keeping that idea of like, as long as you're doing the things that that you can control, and you're doing them every day to the best of your ability, and constantly keeping your eyes on the prize and just moving forward, it's like you'll never feel like you're losing. You know what I mean? Like, you can't look at it and win or lose. You just go do everything you can, and everything that works you'll be standing on that by the end of it.
I love hearing you say that. We have a friend of mine who's an artist in Nashville. His name is Brandon Bing.
Mm-hmm.
And I can remember when I first met him, we sat down. I am not kidding you. We sat down. We had a conversation for over 3 hours. And we talked about the very same thing that you just talked about, about get your plan together and keep on doing it over and over and over again, especially in today's market. It seems like the attention span is a little bit more shorter. I mean, I don't mean that disrespectfully, but it just
it
seems
is
like,
for sure.
yeah, it just seems like I do it over and over again, and eventually the message gets out to the people.
Yeah.
And so I love hearing you say that, because when I hear you say that, I think
Yeah.
about my buddy Brandon Bing.
Right. Well, it's because like a lot of people don't realize, like, to them it looks like everything is overnight, but in reality, the people that they see popping off have been putting in work for the last 5 years. You know what I mean? Like, before it even made sense to anyone. So it's like just sticking to the plan, and not caring about what other people think, and that whole mindset. Just like, I like, who I assume who Rick Rubin is, that he's the producer. Yeah. He said a line, I've read his book, and it's like amazing. Any creative artist or anything you do, that his book, The Creative Act, A Way of Being, I think is what it's called, is a great book for like that mindset of like, if you make the best art for yourself, that's going to end up being what the best product is for the people. You know what I mean? Because it's like, if you're sitting there going off of maybes, of maybe I should do this, maybe I should do that because of this or that, you're going to miss. But if you just focus on, nailing what you want to see and feel in front of you, that'll be the best thing to hand to someone else.
That's awesome. I love having these conversations. We could go on and on and on all day long, my brother. Yeah. Let's talk about your songwriting. I mean, your music. I mean, I'm not quite sure how we connected. All I know is I think I got an email from you about your song. If you can check it out.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I know that's exactly what happened. So you sent me over an email, and I mean, with the rail station, we get tons and tons of requests.
Yeah, for sure.
And some people, I mean, one of the hardest things for me is like, you listen to the music and they're trying to have the passion, but it's just not there.
Yeah.
But when you send me that email and I listen to your music, and this is, I mean, even though we're live on the air right now, I can honestly tell you the songs that you sent over, I kept on listening to them over and over and over again. I mean, as honest as I can be. I mean, it's just the type of music where you can never get tired of it. You just want to keep on listening to it over and over again.
That's cool.
Where do you get that magic from?
Well, if say it is magic, and say that is the effect that it has, I think that literally comes from like what I just said. Like, I am, when I'm in the booth, like doing these songs and working on these songs, like I'm tunnel vision. Like, I care about it so much, like every finite detail, every little thing that I want to get across. Like, that is the process the entire way up. Like, every song that I wrote on that album was an instance where I like sat down and wrote the entire song, at once. And I was like, I love this song. And I wasn't even thinking about putting them out, you know what I mean? Like, while I was writing them. So after putting music out, that's a hard mindset to like get yourself into again. But like I care so much about what I'm doing to the point where I think if people feel that, because I have heard people say similar things to that, um, I do think that it's just because I care about every little part, and I'm sitting there hoping that when people listen to it, I hope they enjoy it. You know what I mean? So it's like I just really care, and I think that's why it has to have that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely on board, and our station is going to begin, to play your music, and
That's
and
awesome.
this
Thank you.
interview will not be the last, and hopefully, we can team up with you and maybe do some stuff for us on the air, and we can do some stuff for you. You're just like one of
100%.
those artists that, man, you're so talented. You got great music. It's just you're one of those artists where you want to support that person. You
Thank
want to
you.
do everything you can to help that person get the exposure that they so well deserve. And
I
seriously,
appreciate
you're
that.
one of those guys. You really are.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
Did you ever think about going on some of the major like music talent shows like America's Got Talent, The Voice,
I've
stuff like
heard
that?
that. I think for me, it's not that I'm against it, but I think it's almost like I don't know if what I'm doing would resonate on that stage or not. You know what I mean? To where it's almost like I don't know if that's like the path for me. And that's just like the way I think. I could go do it and it changed my entire life. And it probably would, but you know, I don't know. It's to be seen.
Yeah, there you go. What's the best advice you ever got from someone in the music industry?
Um the one about like not like where to put your focus, like not, looking at what other people are doing and focusing on your own thing. That is, I think, the best pieces of advice are the ones that come in the form of like it's right in front of your face, but you're not really like resonating with what they mean yet. And then it'll hit you later and you're like, that's gotta be like what they meant, just like really understanding how to focus on what you need to focus on at that time. Like for example, like if I'm sitting here right now stressing about like, gosh, I wish that I was on the stage to like, be up for a Grammy or something like that. Like it's not worth me sitting and putting the worry into like, what if this person thinks this or this person thinks that? Like that will take a toll on you and make you like not creative and everything, and it'll burn you out and you don't even realize that you're doing it. You know what I mean? So it's just making sure you are able to check yourself and stay aware and be like, you know. And I think I got the gist of that from Russ. The like he's like a hip hop R&B kind of guy. A lot of the stuff that he says is really good about that, like knowing where to keep your focus and stuff.
Cool. That's awesome. So let's talk about the upcoming artist, maybe who's not on the stage you are on right now. What words of advice would you give them to try, to continue with their dreams just like you are?
Don't be scared to make mistakes at all, like in the beginning. Like if you think you're not good enough, like don't wait to be good enough or don't wait for this or that. Just start doing what you can and just go out and play and sing in front of people, because the best tool that you can have as an artist is that developed confidence from being like, I've done this before. You know what I mean? I'm only going to get better. Like once you are to that point where you start to feel yourself progressing, like even like being able to perform better live and everything, all of that is like the best push that you can give yourself from the beginning to like getting to where I feel like I'm kind of at now, where like I'm really excited to get in front of people and like share what I'm doing and like, see how it connects and stuff. And but at the beginning, I was just lying to myself, telling myself I wasn't, extremely nervous, which I still am. Like, we'll get super jacked up and whatever. But yeah, in the beginning, it's just doing what you got to do and not worrying about making mistakes or whatever and just fighting through it.
So when you're on stage, do you ever get nervous?
I Well, now I don't say that it's nerves because like I get jacked up, like I get nerves where I'm like I want to get going, but as soon as we start, it's like where I want to be.
That's awesome.
Mm.
That's awesome. Do you have any like pre-event rituals that you do? Get yourself ready for the big show.
I listen to a lot of like I listen to like a lot of hip hop stuff or just anything that just like puts me in my zone. Like I'll sit in the truck and just like listen to stuff and I'll be in attack mode. Like I got the eye of the tiger in me the whole day. Like it's just I'm focusing on the green light to just go basically from the time I wake up till we play.
That's awesome. And so let's talk. Can you please share with the listeners how they can get in contact with you and how can they purchase your amazing music?
So on Instagram, I'm at Whiskey Thomas Zank. If you type in Whiskey Thomas, it'll pop up. But Instagram's like kind of my main platform right now that I'm sharing the most stuff on. But on there is my Comey link where like you can click on that and it's like a landing page with like all of our merch, links to whatever streaming platform you use, and our show dates that are coming up around there. And it's got everything you need to see on there.
Yeah, speaking of show dates, I mean, you're a very busy person. I
Mhm.
mean, I looked at that, and you're booked solid, pretty much, almost.
Yeah, it feels good. We're gonna get into doing some like casino stuff and try to like make a fuller year out of doing routine stuff like that. And we have a little handful of venues that we are going to around here. There's stuff that we want to go and do in Nashville this year. So yeah, I mean, we're to the point where we're like, let's you know go out and tour from March until September, October, or whatever, and then go into the studio and work on the next thing.
So I was just going to ask you, are you currently working on any new music?
We actually have a single that we're gonna put out called "Long Nights and Long Necks." That is a song that my uncle wrote like back in the early 2000s. That is like one of my favorites that they ever did, and we're gonna redo that one. And then there's some songs that my grandfather wrote that we're gonna throw in the mix. And then we have some new stuff that we're sitting on that we're just gonna compile everything and see how it looks in order, and hopefully have something out by like an actual body of work out by like early 2025.
Awesome, awesome! I can hardly wait. And any final thoughts as we wind down our interview on this evening? Thank you so much. I mean, you're just
No
an
problem.
amazing artist, and
Thank
I
you.
appreciate your time. And do you have any final thoughts or anything you'd like to share with our listeners?
Um, Stay alert out there, stay healthy, stay on your grind. Don't let nobody tell you nothing. And that's all I got.
I love it. That's awesome, and It's so nice to meet you, and
You as
appreciate your
well.
time this evening. And again, definitely, this won't be the first time, it won't be the last, and hopefully, we can catch up with you on that tour, and maybe do some stuff with you down the road.
Heck yeah.
Again, definitely, you're an amazing artist. I love your music, and thank you for making music so great.
Appreciate you, Russell.
I appreciate you, my friend. All right. That was Mr. Whiskey Thomas. What an amazing artist he is, and what a great interview we had. And you can check out our interview live on all of our social media outlets. And we're going to send the interview to Whiskey as well, and he'll be promoting our interview on his outlets as well. Until the next time, if you're an upcoming aspiring artist and you want to get your name out there, do you want some exposure? We can make that happen for you right here on Music Dreams USA Radio. It's the Artist Spotlight Show. please send your request to info.musicdreamsusa@gmail.com. info.musicdreamsusa@gmail.com. It's your friend Russell K. on behalf of Mr. Whiskey Thomas. Thank you so much for watching our interview this evening. Take care. Have a great night. And we'll see you again soon on the Music Dreams USA Radio Artist Spotlight Show. Good night, everybody.